Namaste and good morning, everyone. I, Ritika Gupta, Assistant Director at IMPRI, Impact and Policy Research Institute, Prabhav Evam Niti Anusandhan Sansthan, extend my heartiest welcome to you all to IMPRI #Web Policy Talk. We are here for a panel discussion on forest fires, exploring the solution. The program is being organized by National Institute of Disaster Management, NIDM, in collaboration with Center for Environment, Climate Change and Sustainable Development at IMPRI and India Water Portal. I would now like to welcome our moderator for today, Dr. Simi Mehta, who is CEO and Editorial Director at IMPRI, to introduce the program and our eminent panelists further. Ma'am, over to you.
Thank you, Ritika, for leading us into the very important panel discussion today. I wish you all a very good morning, and I sincerely hope and wish the best of health for each of you, your loved ones, and everyone around you. We have been witnessing forest fires in India for the past several years. Right at the outset, I would like to draw your attention to the 2019 report released by the Forest Survey of India that highlighted that over 21% of the forest cover in the country is either highly or extremely fire prone. And this comes amidst the recorded scenario of annual increase in the cases of forest fires over the past decades. I'll just give you the example of 5 years, where in 2015, there were around 25,000 cases of forest fires, and within 2 years, it increased more than 10 times, to 37,000 cases. So these leads us to the questions of what these forest fires are, how they are caused, what are the natural and anthropogenic reasons for these forest fires, how intense these may become in the coming years and decades. How does the reasons of climate change and changes in the land use pattern impact the forest fires? What are the immediate and far-reaching implications of such fires? And what are the measures that need to be taken to minimize these disasters and their impacts over the short, medium, and long term? It is also very important to understand the government's and the local population's response and how can the two work in tandem with each other. To discuss these aspects and beyond, we have a very distinguished panel of experts today who have a long-standing experience in studying and proposing policy recommendations to combat the disasters posed by forest fires. I would take a moment to introduce to you our distinguished panelists. The convener of the program, Professor Anil Kumar Gupta. Professor Anil Kumar Gupta is the head of the Environment, Climate, Disaster Risk Management Division at National Institute of Disaster Management, New Delhi. Professor Gupta is a sustainability risk management strategist who has been working in the area of disaster management, environment and climate resilience for more than 25 years. And he has worked with several national, international, subnational and business administrations. He's a prolific writer and has several dozens of eminent publications of national and international repute to his credit. Thank you, sir, for convening this program, without which it would not have been possible. Our first panelist for the day is Professor Amita Singh. Professor Amita Singh is the president of the Network of Asia Pacific Schools and Institutes of Public Administration and Governance, Center for Disaster Research, Delhi. She is a retired professor from the Center for the Study of Law and Governance at JNU. She is a retired member secretary at the Institutional Ethics Review Board of JNU. And she's also a member of the Indian Council of Social Science Research. Ma'am has worked very closely on best practices research within a number of key governance research institutions around the world. Just to name a few, the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University, the Ash Institute, Nebraska University, College of Urban Planning and Public Affairs at Illinois, Center for Women in Technology, University of Maryland, etc. Ma'am has been a recipient of the Australian Research Fellowship, and she has made presentations on the research group meetings of the United Nations General Assembly more than twice, in fact, 3 times. She has also worked in collaboration with World Bank, UNESCO, UNDP, among several other international agencies. Ma'am has received numerous awards, including the Bangladesh Nawab Bahadur Sayyid Nawab Ali Chaudhry National Award in the field of women's empowerment in 2014, the International Lifetime Achievement Award at the International Congress of Women 2009. And ma'am is a widely cited author, and she has contributed a lot of scholarship and is a regular contributor to print and electronic media. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much, Simi, for having me here. and
Thank
giving
you.
me this opportunity to talk about forest fire in the midst of forest fires which are going around the country and also around the globe.
Sure. Thank you, ma'am.
Congratulations also for IMPRI and NIDM and Professor Anil Gupta and Dr. Arjun Singh for having selected, one of the most important and, one that could draw the biggest concern right now in disaster management, even though fire is not one of the slated disasters in this country yet to come. But it is a disaster, and congratulations the organizers for focusing on forest fires.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
There,
Thank you so much.
there is, I thought that this is a topic which is going to go beyond boundaries because this is concerning all of us. This is related to climate change on one side. This is related to agriculture.
Madam,
Ma'am, yes.
would you, if all agree, Dr. Simi can introduce all the panelists so that
Yes.
better.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your wishes. So our second panelist for the day is Shri Mohan Chandra Pargain. He is a senior officer of the Indian Forest Services, Telangana cadre. During his service, he has served the government under several roles, some of which include as the DFO of Kagasnagar and Panocha. He was the Joint Secretary of the Rain Shadow Areas Development Department of the Government of Andhra Pradesh. He was the Chief Conservator of Forests, Hyderabad, Special Secretary of Andhra Pradesh Pollution Control Board, Municipal Administration and Urban Development, and also of Environment and Forests, Telangana. Mr. Mohan has actually been associated with specific programs like Cloud Seeding Project, the Biodiesel Plantation Program, Andhra Pradesh Community Forestry Management Project, and also the flagship program, the Green Garland for Telangana. And he is a brilliant orator, and he has written a number of publications and is a frequent contributor to the print and electronic media. Thank you, sir, for joining us this
Thank you, Simi. Thank you.
And our final panelist for the day is Mr. Tikinder Singh. He is the former Deputy Mayor of Shimla and is a visiting senior fellow at Impact and Policy Research Institute. He is also the national convener of NCU, National Coalition for Inclusive and Sustainable Urbanization. He has represented Shimla as a policy maker at multiple national and international platforms. He's an eloquent orator and articulates his thoughts in a manner that connects directly with the common people. He's a prolific writer and is a regular contributor to print and electronic media. So thank you, sir, for joining us in the morning today. And before we begin with the, thank you, sir. Before we begin with the panel discussion, I would like to invite Professor Anil Gupta to deliver his opening remarks. Over to you, sir.
Thank you, Dr. Simi, and very good afternoon to all the distinguished speakers of the day and all the participants. My compliments for the entire IMPRI team and the team from NIDM who jointly conceived this program on very important topic. I am very happy to see the three very, very eminent panelists. And it is also a matter of chance that we had a great opportunity to work together. Dr. Amita Singh, Madam, when she founded the Center for Disaster Research at Jawaharlal Nehru University. So since beginning, we have been associated and we have been working. And I would like to always call her not retired, but usually in academics, people do not retire; they only superannuate. So she has become little more senior, and it is like this. And in the scientific and professional field also. So I'm very happy that the colleague has joined from Tamil Nadu. Because many times
Telangana, sir.
Yeah, Telangana. Many times when we talk of forest fire, the focus goes on the forest fire in Uttarakhand. But it is also important that he will be bringing the experience from the southern states also, because even in Telangana, Tamil Nadu, and Maharashtra, the forest fire is emerging as a major challenge. So, Mr. Mohanji and Tikender Singh. Mr. Tikender ji, we have been working closely on various fronts. In fact, he has been contributing a lot on urban resilience also. And we had, I think it is an association of more than 13, 14 years. So really I'm very happy. There are 5 points that I would like to submit for consideration of the panel, and as a kind of feeder point from my side as an opening remarks. The very first thing that is important when we talk of forest fire is recognition, because many times there is a question that whether forest fire is recognized as a disaster or not. And I refer to that. There was a discussion on forest fire monitoring system. There, in fact, I had suggested that we should realize that everything boils down to economics. So until unless we are able to have effective mechanism of economic evaluation of the damage caused by forest fire. So it would be two-way process, the damage assessment in terms of economics, so that the policy people start recognizing the damages caused by forest fire, these which are becoming more widespread. And second thing, the evaluation of the ecosystem services which are destructed, which are destroyed as a consequence of forest fire. Second thing, that we have been conducting a lot of programs jointly with ICFRE and many other institutions. So another point that often referred while discussing with many of the foresters also, and the NGOs and people outside these fraternities also, the coordination issue. Many times forest fire is left to the forest department. That a civil administration keeps thinking that it is just a matter that to be dealt by the civil administration. But forest fire, when it takes the form of a disaster, then certainly civil resources are to be deployed. And when these resources are deployed without a preparation or in an ad hoc manner, the expected result that we anticipate takes more time, or sometimes there is a less optimization of resources or wastage of resources also. So in effective coordination between the civil administration and forest administration, I think that is important. Third point, although we had the mechanism like infras with the support of ISRO, but that is only alert after the fire has already started. So we need to have, I think, go one step more and more effective micro-zonation based risk assessment process, so that based on the past 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years history of the forest stands, we identify and put it on the map. And then we have the model that based on the rainfall, based on the humidity conditions, we understand the fire weather and the litter moisture conditions, and we predict that when the fire can break out. Certainly, most of the forest fires are unnatural. This we have to recognize, and my forester colleague would certainly throw light on this. Fourth point that comes to my mind is the cooperation with locals. The Uttarakhand forest fire, in a catastrophic fire that took place in the year 2015, which was in El Nino year, we realized that the lack of cooperation received from the locals also has been one of the important factor, because if we look at that how forest departments beats fire or prevents fire, the role of local communities and these volunteers, then one panchayat, and these kind of the society that is formed between communities and forest department is very important. Although money paid to these members is very less, but the relationship matters a lot. So I think that has to be seen, and that need to be put in place. And the last point that I would like to make, that forest fire, if we always deal in isolation, I think we will keep on facing new challenges, because forest area is not only prone to forest fire, but several other disasters or several other ecological risks also. And I think there is a lot of interaction between different kind of disasters and different kind of risks. For example, forests are the places where landslides originate, and erosions are always associated with the forest degradation, the uprooting of trees, and uprooting of trees increase in the litter, and dry litter is also associated with the risk of fire. But beside that, drought is something which is very closely connected. Heat is also very closely connected with the incidences of fire. So probably what we have been recommending on what is required also as per the disaster management policy of Government of India and Disaster Management Act, that each and every entity within the government should also prepare a disaster management plan which should be multi-hazard. So forest unit should also think of preparing a multi-hazard disaster management plan, so that the commonalities of the resources, commonalities and the interaction between various disasters can also be seen. For example, if there is a pest attack, certainly plants become weak, and then many plants will die, and then that contributes to dry litter. So there are so many other scientific dimensions. For example, the choice of species, different type of species, then the choice of methods. For example, forest fire is a management tool itself. It is not always a disaster. So the focus should be using fire as a management tool rather than allowing it to become a disaster. So these are the 5 points. And finally, just to share that currently we are in MOU with the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Just past month we signed an MOU. We are helping Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change in developing their disaster management plan, which is to be a multi-hazard disaster management plan. And certainly forest fire going to be one of the important type of disaster. So today's discourse and the viewpoints from the panelists and viewpoints coming from the participant would also be very important feeding messages to the process of preparing the disaster management plan, and particularly with reference to forest fire. So with this, I am very happy, and once again, I welcome all the distinguished speakers of the day, and I welcome all the participants on behalf of Executive Director and IDM, and on my behalf and on behalf of the team. Over to you, Dr. Simi, for taking the session forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Your views have really incited to what I'm going to call a very rich discussion that is going to take place. Thank you for your inaugural remarks. And now the stage is set to invite our eminent panelists. So I would invite Professor Amita Singh to begin with her remarks for the first round. Professor Amita, over to you.
Yeah. Thank you, Simi.
Yes,
I've already conveyed my appreciation for the selection of the topic and a very timely intervention into disaster management systems, giving us an opportunity also to think deeper into this fire framework. To focus on 3 major points, which are going to be part of my discussion. The first is that the increasing emphasis, not just on fire, but we should link fire to climate change. This is one thing because I've also mentioned in a number of my articles also and my columns that there is enough evidence coming from global fire emission database that the forest fires in India and elsewhere, whether we take up California or we take up Australia, the forest fire is increasing 3 times the previous decade's emission and carbon. But the thing is that we focus on dousing the fire and saving the forest, but we have destroyed the environment forever. So the emission data that comes out shows that the emission in some of these last 3 years has even been more than what the industrial emission has been. So this is a very scary future that we are entering into, and the kind of investment that need to come into preventing forest fires is actually not shaping up. This is, the first part of my discussion. The second point that I wish to discuss is that we need to link up forest fires to sustainable development goals, because the money lost because of the forest is also not being appropriately, and why it is not being done, I'll discuss in the third section. That the amount of damage losses which are being calculated in forest fire post assessments is that the focus is all on the monetary losses. The focus is on the lives lost. But there is something permanently being damaged. And that focus is not actually being calculated. In fact, we do not have a very sensible methodology till now to calculate, into the fire analysis, the cost of ecosystem services, the cost of biodiversity. And I've gone through a number of forest surveys calculations which have been done. And I've seen that the focus of losses and damages is primarily on the key species in the flora and both the fauna. And a large number of endemic species is still crying for research, and that research is coming up, but too slowly than the kind of investment that is needed. And my third focus is going to be on the kind of governance which is needed in preventing forest fires, and the kind of major loss which is coming because of the neglect of the governance and the casual attitude that we've been generating over the years in the last decade and the present, post 2014 and 19, the changes which have been occurring is in fact, shrinking the initiative of the local communities to participate. And I'm happy that, Professor Gupta has actually mentioned in the end of his talk that local communities have a major role to play. They have been mentioned as a central force in the Disaster Management Act as well. But at the ground level, they are losing the initiative. And in fact, in the recent Uttarakhand fire, most of the local communities wanted to participate, but they didn't know how to participate because there was no communication between them and the government in the past several years. So taking the 3 points here, now coming back to the first one, there is a very scary future that we have before us because the greenhouse gas emission has been increasing by several times. Now how this segregation of emission can be done out of the forest fire? Let's compare. Agriculture production is 5 to 5.8 gigatons of carbon emission. And then land use, which is also near around the same. And then we come to the emission out of the burning of the boreal forest. It is around 86% of all emissions out of the forest fires and other emissions which are being done. Now, this shows that the boreal forest alone consumes this amount or releases this emission into the atmosphere. That means the boreal forests, the ones that we have in Uttarakhand or the hills or the northeast, they have to be adequately brought into or incorporated into our analysis. Now, Forest Survey report, Simi, you mentioned it is 24% of the forest which is vulnerable to fire. But in the forest report itself, the segregation which is done is that 54.4% is exposed to fire, right? And the remaining, like 21% is less fire, and moderate fire is around 32%, 31%. Now, in the current circumstances that we've seen in the last 3 years, it is 54.4% which is exposed to fire, because the canopy forest that actually prevents the fire has gone down by almost 60%. So we are left with only 3% of canopy forest. This canopy forest is actually the dense forest that in some way prevents the exposure to the aerosols that are in the air. And fires are majorly caused by, the kind of aerosols and the kind of gases that actually covers, the very scattered forest that we have. The point here is that the carbon emission, which is being released out of the forest fire, also in turn prevents the capacity of post-fire forest in carbon sequestration process. In fact, some of the studies which are coming from the West, but not from India, they've been, we can find them in global fire emission database, the kind of methodologies that they have used. And they've been using satellite observation, fire radioactive power into fire radioactive energy, and seeing that over the period of time, they see a pattern into the fire radioactive power, which is connecting to the fire radioactive energy. And this energy is directly related to the greenhouse gas emission of each forest. And they've seen that the capacity of a forest for carbon sequestration is not being reclaimed even 5 years after the fire has gone down. So this is a major loss. And what kind of a climate change policy are we having? And even if we have it, we are not able to ever achieve it if we are not able to prevent these forest fires. Now, the second part is that I wish to discuss here is that how much loss have we suffered? Now, in 2019, 1 lakh hectare of land was given off to forest fires. Now, NGT had been very angry on this National Green Tribunal, and they had asked the government to have a national monitoring committee to look into a national plan, and the national plan came up. And out of this monitoring, which was out of Godavarman case in 2009, and a small group, a small kind of an integrated effort was made in setting up compensatory afforestation agency within the Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change, but not in the NDMA. It was not being part of NDMA. It was part of, Ministry of Environment, Forest and Climate Change. Well, fine. That would have been okay if NDMA was part of it, but NDMA was never made part of it. And now, as we see that NIDM had to go into an MOU to work out on this. Why an MOU? You are all Government of India organizations. There should have been a coordinated single unit agency, one office, representative to be doing it and leading it. But these are segregated chambers. So we still have not come out of the governance patterns of the 60s and the 70s, where the government had been working on compartmentalized organization. Now this compensatory afforestation, the CAMPA, if you go to the Ministry of Environment and Forest website, you would see what CAMPA is doing. But you would not see who is monitoring CAMPA, because we don't see the national plans coming up with any afforestation, because there is no land. We are doing a very laughable thing of talking about afforestation. Where is the land where afforestation can take place? Or if you are afforesting the same forest, then why not prevent the fire? Or what is the data on what amount of forests have been reforested? Now, in this, there is a particular mention of NGOs and communities which have yet to share a major part of afforestation, which is nowhere to be seen in the Ministry of Environment and Forest. And in my studies, I feel very strongly that NDMA and the members should actually talk about it, because if you look at the NDMA as a whole, it still continues to be pre-Hyogo framework, where we focus on rescue operations, rehabilitation operations, but we are not into preparedness. If we were into preparedness, we would have been, having a coordinated organization, a platform, which is above the Ministry of Environment and Forest, and little also focused on NDMA. And of course, separated from Ministry of Home Affairs, because Ministry of Home Affairs is overloaded with a large amount of uniformed agency work which is going on. So why preparedness? As long as the NDMA is part of MHA and Ministry of Environment and Forest doesn't coordinate with NDMA, we are going to have rescue and rehabilitation rather than preparedness, which is a very creative activity, which is participatory activity, and which is more to be done with the villagers, village folk, and forest communities. The third part is revitalizing governance. I have very fixed points on that. Number one, Disaster Management Act 2005 had mentioned that the fire department should be part of NDMA. Let's reclaim it and put it back to NDMA and take it out of MHA. MHA has been illegitimately holding fire services to itself, where it should come to the, as per the act, as per the law, it should come to NDMA. Second suggestion that I have out of my work is that international fire safety standards are being talked about, but they are not implemented. In 2011, I had a discussion with some members of, previous members of NDMA, and they mentioned that they had done some monitoring in 2011 and 12, and they found that 90% of the positions were vacant in the fire services. Why? Because there wasn't any focus of the government on that. Right now, there are about 60% plus positions vacant in the fire services. It's a very specialized branch. If you have a specialized branch, then most of these previous members who have been the founding members, they have shared that this specialized services should be utilized for firefighting. Why sending NDRF everywhere? Because NDRF has other roles to play. Now, these fire safety standards, in accordance with these international fire safety standards, adequate changes should be brought into these fire services. The third is that Ministry of Home Affairs should now be downsized to very focused areas. We know that it is overloaded. There is too much to handle. If the Minister of Home Affairs is out and the Prime Minister from NDMA is out, everything actually is into a state of disillusionment. We've been seeing that in the last 6 months. And this downsizing is going to be good for the country in the sense that training, NIDM, NDMA should focus on governance and also have a specialized wing for research, because fire is not about just talking or adopting international standards. It's about reviving our standards of analysis. We may have, global database, we should have Indian database, and I could not come across the database out of which, policy makers could look into, change the pages and suggest a sustainable policy which combines sustainable development goals on one side and climate change on the other. What is happening is that performance planning, implementation is all being, combined together, and who's doing it, one doesn't know. NIDM does research, does training, but research is not about superficial handling. Research is about only research. You need to have dedicated research organizations, maybe NGOs, maybe universities, maybe some other institutions, allocated the task of, this is research. And then they would bring a white paper to training institution, which is an IDM, and then that could be carried forward. And that is the best impact that one can make in Government of India for having a long-term firefighting policy for this country. That's all I wish to say. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Very important points you have raised. Perhaps some of the questions, some of the ideas that you have floated may be taken up by Anil Gupta sir later in the discussion. So I would now invite Mohan Chandra sir for his remarks. Mohan sir, over to you.
Yeah, thank you, Professor Gupta, and thank you, Professor Amita ji. I think Professor Gupta has taken almost what I wanted to say. Except a few, I think I don't have much. And nevertheless, I will try to put in my practical, field experience basis, because there are difference between when, because what I see the Professor Amita wonderfully, she has given a very, broad overview of things, and basically how at national level, at policy level, things are to be done. there are two aspects actually. If you see, one aspect is that how the NIDM and related to the vis-a-vis forest department, how they interact, how they do the things, and another burning issue, and the very that in the paper also we are seeing why the forest fire is not declared as a disaster. So, okay, I'm leaving that part to policymaker, and because it is not in our hand, I don't know, because there are so many implications on that. I think that Professor Gupta must be knowing that very well, being in the department and of affairs. Okay, I will leave. I will not go to that part. And again, that Professor Amita ji has said that campaign, all these things. Actually, I just like to inform that, in fact, last 4, 5, or even 6, 7 years, it is the CAMPA funds actually which are coming to help whatsoever the states are able to do. I think I will just come to how it is being done. Apart from compensatory afforestation for where the plantation is mandatory to be done for that, because that's basically the main condition. Unless you do that, the name itself is compensatory afforestation. So CAMPA word is like that only. So apart from that, of late, with the intervention of the Honorable Supreme Court, we also have taken care of the other things of the other than the plantation. So in that, the fire protection is one of the activities being taken up by the state governments. Anyway, this is again depend on the how much the kitty, CAMPA kitty with the state government. It is a very simple thing. You have diverted more area, you will have more fund. You have not diverted more area, you don't have the fund. Simple thing. So the state which is diverting, suppose Odisha has diverted most. So that's why the CAMPA, the Odisha got the maximum amount. That is different thing, that there was some problem also. Anyway, this is the second part. Okay, I will just try to summarize this thing in 2, 3 points, that what are the facts of the Indian forest and all these things, forest fire in the Indian context, what are the basic ground region, and what are the possible things can be done, and which are that factor, and especially Telangana reference also I would like to share, because I have been almost out of 15% or 50% of my service is in the field, actually, as a DFO or conservator, and even just a few months back also I was dealing with the forest fire in the department head office. So anyway, as it is said that the major difference between natural disaster and forest fire is the simple as by name say. This is not caused by the nature, unlike the Western countries, where the especially lightning, sparks, and spontaneous combustion sometimes. It is more common in the Western country, California, Austria, all these things. But somehow this is not the case in the Indian scenario. Maybe you can say 0.1%, or we don't have data, but okay, you can say some places you can say, but by and large you can safely say in Indian it is a purely anthropologic region. And coming to India, that we have typical problem actually. When you come to, we discuss the forest fire, we have typical problem of society, typical economic problem, typical village problems. And my data will support that, what I am going to give you, that we have around 13 lakh forest area under encroachment. See, encroachment is the illegal cultivation. So illegal means, I'm not coming to region behind that. That is not my job. But for me, if I have the custodian of the X land, if my forest guard has 1,000 hectares of area, if any villager, he may be poorest of poor, he may be the richest of the rich. If he is encroaching, so he is offender in my forest guard definition and the job assigned to him, because he is custodian of that land. Whatsoever, he may be the genuine encroacher, but it is not his thing, but he is an encroacher. So what he will do, he will start cutting forests, he will start lighting fire and all these things. So that is the one reason. The encroachment is the biggest, and encroachment is not only a social, it is a political problem. I will come to that. Second part, and apart from that, we have 78% area forest is subjected to heavy grazing. Why grazing means? Because once the area is grazed, its productivity is lost. Productivity loss means we don't have the foliage, we don't have this thing, and in turn the cycle is getting changed. Forest and productivity is getting down, and the forest is getting down means then again their capacity, humus formation is also not there. If the humus formation is not there, there is no water storing capacity. It is reducing. It is a connected cycle. Third thing is that actually, again, almost 100 million people are dependent on forest, and another 35 million are tribals. And it is with reference to our ROFR, Tribal Act, where it is a burning topic. Again, there is a lot of issue. Again, there are a lot of this thing. I will not go into it all because this is not our concern with the fire then. And as you have said that around 21% of the area is fire prone as per FSI estimate, but In the state like your Uttarakhand and North India, it is more than that, maybe around 50, or even it may go even 60-70% also. There are reasons for that. That is a different story. But okay, you can say that almost 1/3 of the Indian forests they are prone to fire. That itself is sufficient. If you say 1/3, that is itself is that. And again, during one of the estimate during 2019, one data said that almost 2.56 lakh hectare was affected by forest fire. I will just come to this point. These are also, see, one of the biggest problem with the forest department is that we are not able to quantify the damage, because there are reasons for that. There are reasons for the machinery, there are the manpower, there are reasons for the other reasons also, which are inherent. And I will just come to that point. And as you know, with the of late, last decade, you can say, or every year, as you are seeing the climate change scenario, it is also making things worse. Because already that forest, they are already degraded, their productivity is already degraded, their capacity is already degraded. Uske upar se what is happening? Again, you have the prolonged heat. So what it is making things worse, and again, what were there, so again, it is again 10% more contributing to that. So especially if you just see that, because I am from the Uttarakhand, Nainital area and all these things, I have in my childhood, I have witnessed how the cheer forest is causing damage, because there are the typical things. See what happened in Uttarakhand or Himachal region, where there are 2-3 contributing factors. First thing, they have the slope, and it is very difficult. Slope means it has both. It catches fire very fast, and same time it is very difficult to access and control by the person. So what are the options? Can you put everywhere these, your helicopter and all these things? Not possible. Second thing, it has the cheer pine, which contain resins. And cheer pine resin means what you bolte na ki ghee mein aag dalna wali baat. It is like that only. So once it is gone, mean it is difficult to control. So that is another thing. And same time, similarly in our central area, central India and forest area, where we have the dry deciduous forest, we have mainly teak and bamboo. And I am saying you, these are also dried bamboo leaf or dried teak leaf, because teak ka kya hai, it is not a one time. From December to January, February, it start falling. It is not that one time they will not fall. They start falling for 3 months. So what happens? Suppose my staff has cleared, this thing, dry leaf this time. After 15 days, again there will leaf. And they are so inflammable. They are equally inflammable. Only difference is there that here we have the plains area, so we can control this. Unlike in our hills, where it is very difficult to control. So that is the reason for that. And coming to now, as Professor Amita also said, there have been increase in the number of these things. So I have the data, actually yesterday I downloaded. If you see the 17-18 season, this data is based on the fire alert. Fire alert, you are not that is one of the technology, and now the off late, this is recently being used by the Forest Survey of India. They have done a lot of good work actually. So fire alert is part of that. They are using 2 kinds of satellite, which is called MODIS and other is called SNPP kind of thing. They have some time gap. So one satellite data they give in within 30 minutes of that catching. So data comes to there, from there it comes to FSI, again it go to this or Hyderabad NRSA, then again it is a process, and immediately it is sent to the concerned area, where the geographical location of the XYZ state or district or even beat. And the another is the MODIS also. So they have, one is having 30-minute gap, one is having around 80 or 60 minutes, 60 or 70. So it means we are now technologically little bit advanced, and we are getting that data very quickly, as quickly as possible. So far that is coming to, I have the data. It said that during 17-18 we got around 263 fire alerts, and during 18-19 season this was 220,000. So there is a drop. There was a reduction in the 19% reduction in the fire alert. But again 19-20 again there is a drop of the fire alerts. They were very less. So it said that minus 67% less fire alert we got. So fire alert can be directly related to the number of fires. So it to some extent it quantifies this thing. But this year actually, if the data from November 2020 to April 28th, yesterday actually, day for yesterday I have taken the data. It said we have received 383,000 data fire alert. It means this is 162% more, and still we have 2 months to go. you can imagine the how much, which is the, intensity of the forest fire this time. So this gives the importance of, seriousness of the matter, the how serious is the forest fire. Okay. As I was coming to the forest, the another issue is the forest area burn. I remember that earlier when you used to see, 15, 20 years back, I am seeing initial first DFO in the Kaghaz Nagar. At that time in the department, across India also, fire used to be a not very common type. It's a very genuine thing. There are two reasons for that. First reason was there was no accessibility. Otherwise also in the forest, accessibility is very, limited. Nowadays it is improved, but for some hilly region and all these things, over the last 20 years, accessibility almost one of the forest area has been improved. So that is one reason. Another thing is that it was not a priority item for the department. So there was no, priority comes from the policy level, whether it is a priority agenda or not. If it is a priority agenda department, because we are the government servant. If the government say, yes, you do that, I will do it. Otherwise, we will not do it. So that because of that reason, initially there was not much of thing, but slowly, what I am saying, it has been improved, I think. We have improved. So at that time, we used to say, forest used to say, how much for your recorded? We will just write like that thing. But of late, when the technology getting advanced, and in Andhra Pradesh, earlier it was Andhra Pradesh, we are having little bit good technological, infrastructure. We are little bit far ahead with the other state. And Telangana, after bifurcation of 2016, little bit we are in a comfortable position. We have data. Even the last year, what we have started, our staff, they are getting fire alerts. So what we are saying, I will come to that part secondly, but I am saying the area burnt. So actual assessment kind of thing. Now, actual assessment, because the forest guard, when he get the signal or message on his mobile, he has all lat long available with them. So he can go to that place. Yes, he got this thing, so he will go there. But what we have added this time in Telangana, we asked him, yes, when you are going, please record 4 to 5 geo coordinates. So what he will do, after going to that place, he will record 4 to 5 geo coordinates, and that will be uploaded. And in turn, because if there are geo coordinates, system will calculate area its own, because we have managed, we have prepared our program like that. So what I am to say that because of that, what is happening now in Telangana, because this also I shared with the DGFSI at the last year also. So we are now somewhat we are going to have real time, at least, or near to real time estimation of the forest fire loss. So in that case, even if you can just go to telangana.forest.nic, and that there is a link is there, it is getting every day updated. So the yesterday, what I was thinking, we have received Telangana 21,006 fire alert, and because of that, these alert 23,018 hectare area burned. So what I am saying, average, you can say the one fire alert is equal to 1 hectare of the area burned. It is an average. It is purely average. It may be different also, but on an average, you can say, because if you have something, earlier it was nothing. So at least I can say yes. And what I have seen last year also, at that time also 2019, when the Professor Mehta was saying the same, the number was coming to same hectare. So you can say it is not a purely scientific, but at least we have some estimation. So at least I can say to my bosses, boss, we have this much area burned, because this is data there. Okay, coming to that, losses. This is very good. Actually, Professor Gupta also have pointed out that, and Madam also have the losses. Actually, this is the very biggest thing. And I see, because I can just see here, not as a forest official or government official, as a citizen, I can say it all depends on the need or intention or the priority of the government. Excellent. See whether you want to know these losses. Economic services, are you really serious? If you are serious, everything can be done. During 2016, World Bank has made a study actually. So what they say at that time, they estimated that at that time, at 2016 price, they say the loss to Indian forests or because of various services and all these things, it was around 1,101 crore. 1,100 crore was made at that time. But I will put in this other way now. You have actually, Madam has told that there is some NPB and compensated forestation. Whenever the area is diverted, we charge some money for that, what is called the NPB, net present value of that forest. And this NPB is ranging from 6.9 lakh to 10.43. 6.9 lakh is the worst kind of forest. 10 lakh is the best kind of forest. Suppose somebody is diverting best kind of forest, he will have to pay around 10 or 11 lakh rupee per hectare, because, and this was estimation, to some extent it is correct, and it also include lot of, to some extent, ecosystem services, and to some extent the loss of value, lot of tree, I mean, which are diverted, loss of soil loss and all these things because of diversion. So again, it is subjected to, it is not 100% correct, but we have some data for that. So, and now since in this case, we are not diverting forest and we are not cutting forest. So if you at least presume 50% of that loss, at least presume, because the ecosystem services, now they have there are a lot of studies going on the world, across the world, and still, but we have not adopted, not only nowhere it is adopted, and there are reasons for that. Because once you adopt the services, ecosystem service of the forest, you will have to give priority to forest. Suppose if I say, I have 1 lakh, sir, I am losing 1 lakh hectare forest, then 1 lakh into 10 lakh means, you say it means crores of rupee worth you are, then what is your priority? So people will ask, we ourselves ask, when you are saying because of that we are losing that much, so what the government is doing, we have to give some priority. So that is the basic question actually coming here. So in that case also, if I see these 3 lakh hectare forest fire equivalent to 3 lakh number of fire alert, so this 3 lakh come to, and if I take 50% of even that value to this, for example, so it comes around 9,000 crore rupees valuation. It is an estimation. Again, it is not scientific, but we have some data. I can say that at present, the loss because of that, it will be around 9,000 crore if you take at least 50% of that value. Anyway, that is okay. Now, again, coming to the technological advancement, what the over last year, it is a very good thing actually, last 3-4 years, what has happened from the FSI, what they have done, they have, the Gupta was saying that there is some early detection, and one of the, question also, they have put how you can have the early detection kind of thing. I'll come to that. FSI of late, they have made a provision of making some analysis of that based on various factors, past fire and local condition, what is the climatic condition, what is the rainfall, what is the moisture area. They have some 5-10 parameters. Based on that, they are now they have in the process of making some pre-fire, fire alerts. So what they are doing, based on that, they will calculate that which area there is possibility of getting fire. They are even the advanced alert they are sending. Pre-fire alert kind of thing, that is in process, and all the department, state forest department, they are getting those alerts. So this is a very good thing actually they have done. They have done little bit advanced stage, and it is again to see what is the priority, how much priority is given to that. Again, that is a question of that thing. But as far as that is concerned, technological advancement is there. Really, FSI have done good job. Second thing, what they be doing then, whatever they are getting either MODIS data or SNPP data, it is immediately being sent to the concerned area person. Concerned area person, lowest functionally is the forest guard. So we have that data, we have the GIS layer, we have the maps, we have everything, and based on the lat long and the location, it is directly going to the concerned guard, concerned forester, concerned range officer, concerned conservator, concerned CCF, and the principal chief. Everybody is getting those alerts. So what is happening? It is helping that to control the fire immediately. And in my, actually, I don't have the slide, otherwise I would have shared you that now. In one of the cases, you will not believe, my forest guard, one lady forest guard, he got a fire alert around 10:20 p.m. And she was a little bit so active, and she opened that mobile, and immediately she got the location. And not be within 1.5 hours, by 12 night, she was there on the spot, and she could control that fire because of that information. Otherwise, had it been the other cases, wo chalte rehta, ek din tak chalta, nobody is bothered, they start doing all these things. So that is a very good thing. So now comes, so this is the technological advance, but only thing is that it has to little bit demystified. Demystified means it has to put for the use of the public. So this is a question of that. So that I will come to suggestion how we can do that thing.
Sure, suggestions, sorry to interrupt, sir. So we can go to the suggestions in the way forward round.
Okay, then. Okay, I will come to that. Okay.
Okay, yes.
So,
we could, if you could include.
I hope I have a little bit some time. I can come.
So briefly, if you could just take a
minute. 2-3 points. Yeah. So coming to the impact, I will come. Yes, suggestion. Okay, I will go to that. So see, impact, I need not say what is the fire is causing damages. Everybody knows the common thing, whether it is the survival kind of thing, climate change, so many things, I will not go. Now let us see the problem, how to see the problem of forest fire. I told you now, there are two things. Either you have to see as an environmental problem, you can take, you see as a sociological or economical problem, it is up to two. You have to take that thing, or I have to say political problem, because political problem is very, I think it is very important, I have to say. See what is happening, whether it is a encroacher or is a grazing, all these things, this is the common problem, and it is inevitable for our country. So, I mean, keeping our kind of thing, that is very common. We cannot say there is no such problem. And again, for that redressal, the people go to the public representatives. Public representative, there is a class of people. He will say, why you are not allowing him to do? Khatam. Then is a kind of vicious circle is there, which we are not able to break down. So unless you break down, I think there will be a solution to that thing. And coming to people and community involvement, this is the crucial actually, but there are also issues for that. In fact, how you have to done that thing. See, unless these three factors, if you want to have a really solution, you have to see the problem also. See, when the sociological problem, we have to see social angle. If it is a political problem, we have to see the political angle also. And again, it comes with political angle, it comes the policy angle, which is the very important, whether its policy may priority hai ki nahi. If it is not priority, then we can, I mean, conduct thousands of such, I mean, discussion and our give recommendation available, but it has, unless it comes into policy, and not just policy, it should be converted into some intervention and financial, I mean, this thing. Unless you provide some money, what's called bhuke bhajan hoy gopala. If you don't have the money, then what is the use of talking in this thing? You can talk so many things. So it has to be given in that aspect. And people and all these things, I will come that drastic this thing. And suggestion part, I will come later on, what I am saying. That's it. And yes, ma'am, regarding that CAMPA action plan, what is happening now? So whatsoever the state they are getting CAMPA fund, it has a procedure for that. What they are doing? They prepare an advance action plan, the activity to be done in that state government, and it has to be chaired by the chief secretary. It is not like that. And again, if the chief secretary approve plan, it has to approve by the national CAMPA. Then only the money is coming. You may be aware of that. So what is happening there? There are 2-3 things actually. Major part is afforestation. Apart from that, there is a component which is getting now a little bit priority in all state government. That is called fire protection and fire prevention and protection part. So in that, to some extent, lot of this is being taken that thing. So I will come that what is happening of late. We also have started Telangana. We have also started. We have done based on that fire alert. Based on that, we have prepared the fire prone area in advance. Each beat also we have prepared based on the data available. So it helps that we know that this time these are the area the high priority. We'll give the high priority. We'll give the more money. Will the quick response team to there? We have lot of now operate lot of new technology. Mean we have lot of fire blowers which we never used to do. Each fire blower costing around 50 to 60,000. For example, we have around 3,000 fire blower. It is a very new tools. So light of that. Similarly, again, whatsoever the activity.
You to conclude,
yeah. That's so I will come to that. I will come to suggestion part later on once that comes up. But from my side, these are the problem. And what I want to say that. It has to seen it a very, very integrated manner and with really some quality kind of policy intervention plus some financial, I mean, priority for that. Thank you. Thank you for giving that time.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Very important points you have raised. There are a few questions that are coming to you. We'll do that in the Q&A round. So I would invite Mr. Tikinder Singh Panwar for his remarks. So over to you.
Thanks, Simi. Am I audible there?
Yes, perfect.
Okay, so I don't know where to start from. I think I'll start from where Mr. Mohan left. And yeah, I think it's a question of encroachment. Earlier, it was the Britishers who encroached upon us, the forest dwellers and the owners of the forests. And now it's the present-day government that is encroaching upon us in the form of, taking away our minerals, constructing hydropower projects, bypassing the local communities and completely alienating the communities. That's my just to start with. I'll come to it. I'll park it to just speak on that. So yeah, we have the biggest encroachers, in fact, we are dealing with, right from the British, because they wanted timber. They wanted timber to lay their railways and, to export that. And now we have the modern form of encroachment, about which I will definitely dwell upon a little later. So, but I think the 2 points that I want to make right at the inception, and that is when we speak about forest fires, because I have served the city for for 5 years, being the directly elected deputy mayor. But at the same time, I am a forest dweller. I mean, I live in the forest. I mean, so the two things that we have to keep in mind when we are speaking about forests. A, the forests belong to us, and we belong to the forest. That's the inherent connection and the relationship that we have. We have been guarding them. We have been protecting them. My forefathers, centuries and centuries together, we've been guarding them. The officers, the governments are the custodians. We are the owners of these forests. And that's the first thing that I want to convey to everyone here. That's one. The two, we must consider forests as an ecosystem, not just in isolation or in silos. I mean, if you think, and I'm quite amazed, we are not bringing in the whole community of local people, of elected people, of local representatives in this entire process, and bypassing them. I don't think the NDRF or I mean, they are even adapted to deal with the forest fires. I think the first in the line have to be the local people, and that's what they have been doing for centuries together, and that's why we have the present forest. That's one. There's just 3 quick points that I want to make. I won't take much time. The first thing is, and this is what Sanjeeva Pandey, one of our very senior forest officers and very, I mean, very passionate for forest, I would say, who's worked in our state for a long time in Himachal Pradesh, used to say, you know, one of the reasons why we have forest fire, and that's not pan-India, but that's particularly about what ma'am was saying in the northern region, is what he said, pine colonizing. Actually, and the biggest scoundrels to do that have been our successive governments and the World Bank. Why I bring this to the fore? Because since the 1960s, when you know, there was this when the state governments were pushed for green cover, enhancing the green cover, not realizing that what does the green cover mean? I mean, they planted pine just like anything. Now, I think of the total forest that we have in Himachal, I think we have some 70%, 69 to 70% is forest land in Himachal Pradesh. And out of that, a good chunk of forests comprise the pine. And it's pine is not an exotic species, by the way. I mean, it's been here since long, but it's never been cultivated by the local communities. You know, the Britishers first did, because they planted it extensively, because they came to the mountains and they wanted those TB sanatoriums to have fresh air, and that's how they brought it into the plantation drive. And that's what, since the 1850s, when they brought in the Forest Act, and when they codified that act. So, but post-independence also, that's why I said the two biggest scoundrels who actually have done the damage. Now, how do we reverse that? That's what we have to think. Why I'm pointing it out? Because there are reasons to that. A, what Mr. Mohan was also making a reference to it. It's extremely difficult to extinguish a fire in a pine forest because the needles are highly effervescent. Two, it doesn't allow, it turns the soil completely acidic. It doesn't allow any vegetation to take place underneath a pine forest. And the only vegetation that takes place underneath the forest is lantana, which is completely exotic. I mean, it was brought by the British in the mountains, and just for their aesthetic value. Otherwise, has no role. And so both of them complement each other, and actually, it's a disaster. So I think it is high time that either we must salvage. I mean, we must cut down those forests and try to plant mixed forests, and you know, that's why I said the native communities, because if you come to Himachal and if you come to Uttarakhand, you'll find many villages termed in the name of oak. So you'll find many villages which will have either a suffix named oak or a prefix named oak. But oak was termed like a fuel wood. So I think what we need to redraw is to read. So when we say it's an ecosystem, we need to redraw our policy of plantation. And since the plantation, whatever afforestation is going on, I think pine, we must get rid of pine. That's one of the important. So what Sanjeeva Pandey has been pointing out, actually pine colonizing, that we actually need to take care of. The second thing, and that is, I think, more important when we speak about forest fires, is this what I said, encroachment of the British earlier and now of present-day government. I do not know about Uttarakhand and other states, but since 2005, when we have passed the Forest Rights Act, not a single case has been decided. Actually, the people have been completely alienated. And there's another distinction that our Himachal government has done. if any hydropower, small and micro hydropower, was to be constructed in Himachal Pradesh, then they had to take a no objection certificate from the local community, that is from the local panchayat. Now that has also been evaded, which means that you have completely alienated the people from there. And what people have been termed as encroachers. I mean, come on, they have been living here for centuries together, and now so there's massive alienation. And actually, we must learn from history. By the way, even the British, when they drafted the first Forest Act, what they termed is the Wazivul Urge. The Wazivul Urge is the registration of the local community rights in the forest. Now, what are those rights? Those rights are for fuel, those are for fodder, those are for timber, for the local communities. But slowly and slowly, the dispensations that have come and the political realignments that have taken place, and especially after the 1980s, when there was nationalization of the forest. I mean, why should we have nationalization of the forest? Why should not forest be given back to the communities and let them manage it? When we talk about communities managing that, why should there be nationalization of the forest? Now you will find a JP industry going deep into the forest. You'll find an ecotourism going deep into the forest, but you'll not allow the local communities to actually even enter whatever was even registered under the Wazivul Urge. I mean that was almost a century and a half ago. So I think so. This policy of shunning the local people away from forests has to be revisited if we have to ensure that the forest fires are to be controlled. For the simple reason, the first in command is not the technology, by the way. The first in command is the local people. That's the local community. And since we have alienated the local community, and of course there are as Mohan was pointing out, there definitely there is a practice that, you know, if you lit a fire in the forest, then you will have good fodder next time, and that also continues. I don't really brush it aside, but I think all that can be taken care of by, you know, having a more dialogue. But to completely alienate them and to consider them as encroachers, I don't think. And then they will just be somebody to just look from a distance and then not to participate in it. Else, we've seen communities participating even in pine forests, risking their lives and protecting forests from the fires. And I think that has to be revisited. So that's the second point. I think I would, and of course, revisiting the Forest Rights Act. I mean, how many of the case? I mean, we didn't even speak about Forest Rights Act, by the way, when we are speaking about forest as an ecosystem. So, and the third thing I think is the overall slide that we find in what Professor Amita was also pointing out about governance. And let me come to very small. So when I say governance, why is not there a linkage between the forest department? Why does a parastatal, that's a forest department, consider it to be somewhat different from the elected representatives at the panchayat level? So how do you bring this linkage? For example, in Shimla, because Shimla, we had this advantage, Shimla being one of the oldest municipality of the country, dates back to 1851. So we had that law where the forest department was under the municipal corporation. So you could see the difference. I mean, I don't know how many towns are there in the country, but Shimla still has a canopy of almost 60% forest in the urban center. Can you believe that? It's a large forest cover that we have in Shimla. And you know, it's the conventional thing that has gone deep down. You will not find the local people who are living in Shimla to be denuding forests. So you know, that consciousness also gets developed with the passage of time. Why I'm pointing this out is because we can see the difference when the local representatives, the elected representatives, are linked to this entire. How do we structure that? I think that is what we have to work out. So when I say the governance part, it's not that the forest people are not working, but I think with the new liberal paradigm that we find, you know, the Fiscal Responsibility Act, you not increase the fiscal deficit in the state. Himachal is one of the states that has been badly hit. Why? Because earlier the forest department used to hire forest rakhas. They were the forest protectors, actually, and in large areas with forest guard. I mean, Monsa will be able to tell us more. I mean, better that how a forest guard guards what area of the forest. It's impossible for a human being to guard such a large forest. So, you had forest rakas, and forest rakas had no other job but to ensure that there are no forest fires.
Just to interrupt that, they used to call actually in Kumaon, they are called patrol. Patrol means patrolling person.
Okay,
fact.
so
yeah, just for that. Yeah.
But here, you find because the government has no money to pay, and so those, and they were not paid, like they were not regular employees, they were local community people. So I think we have to really revisit, rethink, apart from all the technological gadgets that we are discussing, to really understand the role of the human being and this connect between the forest and the human soul and the human consciousness. And lastly, that's what I want to, and that's the third thing that I wanted to say. Actually, in Himachal, you'll find forest. I mean, what we're discussing is that, there's a link between climate change and forest fire. But can you believe we find forest fires even in winters in Himachal? When there's a dry spell for a long period, even then we have forest fires. And a large chunk of area gets, and we've seen just a month ago, where in 24 hours we found 55 forest fires in Uttarakhand, and similarly there were forest fires all over in the state. So I think the last point, I think when we speak about governance, structuring it, we have to again revisit the whole question: forests for whom? I think they are for the people, and people are for the forests. The moment we just keep our eyes aloof from that look, there will be some technocentric agency monitoring from outside, not realizing actually there's politics behind it, and the politics is to alienate people from the main course of forest management, and handing over these forests to either say hydropower. It just came to my mind. Before I finish off, Simi. We have a forest because the moment we go to a slightly higher altitude, Monji, you'll be able to tell me the botanical name because I don't remember. Chilgoza. Now we have Chilgoza forests. Why do you not find a fire in for Chilgoza? Because the Chilgoza forests Chilgoza has a very high value, not just nutrition, but also commercial value, because it is managed 100% by the local communities. There's no role of the government, So what I want is lesser role of the government. Of course, the government has to play a different role, but larger role of the community, whereby their rights are protected, the rights that have been accrued centuries together. At the same time, they must feel that sense of possession. They own the forest, and the forest belong to them, and not for the aggrandizement of the private capital. Like we find hydropower projects, cement power. They've denuded my state just like anything. You have 7 or 8 cement plants whereby, so people know, they have consciousness. We are not talking to robots. We are talking to people. They say for a hydropower, for cement plant, you allow everything. And for us who have been going into the forest, getting fodder, getting fuel, whatever was our right. It's just a matter of law, because in 1950s, all that was fallow land. It didn't happen in Punjab, but it happened in Himachal, was termed as forest. That's why we have 70% forest land in Himachal now, though the forest cover is not more than 22%. So, just by a stroke of pen, we turned everything that was fallow into forest land. And now we do not allow people to enter even the forest. So I think there has to be a comprehensive approach, apart from something that has to be done very immediate. Of course, very immediate has to be done. But that very immediate will not take us too long, unless and until we revisit what we have done, what has been completely wrong. For example, the 1960s, planting pine, increasing our green cover, which led us to a very devastating situation in which we are now. So I think with that, I would like to end. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for brilliantly articulating your points. And certainly we have a lot to learn, and we'll discuss that further. I would like to now move on to the question and answers part. There are a few questions that have been identified to our esteemed panelists. So I would request, in fact, begin with Professor Anil Gupta. There is a question for you, sir. Also, if you could respond to Amita ma'am's comments. The question to you is, when talking about involving local communities, the civil society, or the more democratic institutions like the one panchayats, do we see their role as limited in case of risk and disaster management, or also recognize their usefulness in adaptive governance of local resources and forests on which the communities depend? In fact, this is a rhetorical question, but what are your views, and how can the government come and intervene positively? This is a question by Mr. Vivek Negi. The questions to Professor Amita Singh are one is from Mr. Ajay Kumar Sahu, who says that, is there any way by which we can develop an early warning system with which we can monitor the forest fires more rapidly, the similar ones which we have for other disasters? How can we train indigenous communities to fight forest fires, ma'am? And also, the question is to you about the forest fires at times are artificial in belief that in favor that it favors good understory grass and shrub growth, for example, in the case of Uttarakhand. And if it is true, why don't the forest department does the same things of fire-based nutrient release in favor of the communities and in a controlled manner? Would this solve the problem, at least of the artificial causes? And if it is not true, conversely, why even the artificial fire is promoted by the communities for a long period of time to favor vegetation growth? Shri Mohan Chandraji, if you could talk about the action-based definition of encroachment in this context to mean only degradation of forest lands and not other uses like cultivation coming close to solving the purpose. Can the implementation of Community Forest Rights Act throw light to some possible solutions to the encroachment problem that you just spoke about? And finally, to Mr. Tikender, forest fires have direct implications on the lives and livelihoods of the indigenous communities. Women are directly impacted. How have you been in your practice, and how do you even advocate that their lives and livelihoods are actually maintained, or at the best not interfered negatively by such disasters? So these are the broad questions. I would request Anil sir to begin with responding.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
sir.
you, Dr. Simi. And I was listening to all the speakers also, and very useful discussion it was. Now coming to my response to the point or the question raised, and where my reflection is see, when we talk of forest fire, so in India, there are not only northern part, but the southern part also, where forest fire, even in the northeast also, there are incidences of forest fire. Most of the time we are referring to negative sides, but I would say that there are some good stories also. And many times we are saying, I'm not saying that this because I'm a part of the government, but many times we are finding that whatever being done by the government, central government or state government or whatever, is wrong or anti-community. I think there is a need to have a middle path, and probably that will lead to a better solution. And there, in fact, whatever we say, the participatory government, because governance, because at the local level, yes, certainly it is very much required, and that can be very helpful. But first of all, we should also start looking at the failure stories, but on the other side, the success stories also. With the current level of resources, yes, we all agree that resources are scarce. There's a lot of scarcity of resources. And in fact, the past catastrophic forest fire disasters have revealed that the non-engagement with the community, and why the community, there's non-engagement with the community, because community also expects some kind of incentives. So if the community do not get incentive for quite long time, then certainly the community members also lose interest in cooperating with the forest department or the civil agencies, and then the disconnect begins. So basically, we will have to go deeper into that why that disconnect has begun. It is not that the cooperation has never been there, and still in many parts of the country, the cooperation is successful. Many times it depends on the person specific. Maybe some particular forester is there and he could re-establish that connection. And then sometimes it is region specific, sometimes it is community specific also. So this is point number one. Second thing, many times we start looking at and targeting at the central government or the central agencies. See, forest fire related issues, certainly central government is there to provide guidelines. Central government is certainly there to facilitate technological interventions. For example, if there is more efficient support can be provided from ISRO or these kind of central agencies or India Meteorology Department for fire weather assessment or the real-time monitoring or more effective early warning kind of thing. Certainly, central agencies will come into picture. But forest fire management, when we say, they are always everyone will believe that the prevention is always the best management. Once fire has broken, my forester friend would agree that once fire has broken, if you have already created fire lines, it is okay. Otherwise, you have to just wait and watch. And you put military, or you put NDRF, and you put a lot of helicopters. See, Indian forests are very different from the Canadian forests or Indonesian forests. Many times we start quoting that how people manage forest fire in Canada, or how they manage in California, or how they manage in Indonesia. You see, we have entirely a different terrain, and the terrain in Himachal is entirely different from the terrain in Maharashtra. So you cannot have common model. Basically, we have to look at the local models, and then the local agencies would come into picture. That is the reason in my opening deliberation also I referred to that the more effective coordination and cooperation between civil administration and the forest administration. This is number one. Amita Singh Madam was referring to the improvement of the fire services. Madam, you are very important that fire services need to be improved. But reality is that the civil fire services comes very late to rescue the forest, to manage the forest fire. Forest fire is managed by the forest department and their people. Only in case of the urban area, urban locations or the municipalities or the big municipal corporations where forest stand is nearby, then only these resources are available. Otherwise, it is not available. So, local level coordination effectiveness, integrating forest fire related issues with the district level disaster management plan, and not only disaster management plan, but the development plan itself. And you truly, you very correctly pointed out that we are now having the climate change adaptation plan also. So we need to strengthen that. So three pillars: the civil administration, forest administration, and the community. I think we need to create more effective bridge for that. This is number one. And to see that how the incentives can be generated, that is important. Yeah, probably some kind of research can be done, because resources are not scarce in the country. We have the resources, maybe proper deployment of the resources, or some kind of planning, implementation, these kind of things. But I will have a question on the community also. Tikender ji would agree with me. Many times there is a misunderstanding about community also. When we say community, who is community? A person who owns hectares of land, who owns a complete forest strands, do we consider that community and his rights to stay within the forest? Are the dwellers, which were the tribal people, are the indigenous people? Now, actually, the community has also changed a lot in past 4 or 5 decades. Now, people, there are some people who are not actually those real communities, but there are in fact other kind of. They have all that amenities. They enjoy all the benefits of the civil society. They have their employment in the city. But if they want to exploit forest resources and have the all the enjoyments of the civil society, and having another house in the city and one house within the forest, or a few hutments in the forest, I think that has also been a challenge. And this continuous conflict between community and forest department or community and civil administration past 4 or 5 decades. In fact, when I started my schooling, since then I'm listening about these things. So I think we will have to find some kind of amicable solution to that. And many times when we refer to that civil societies and only civil societies are the democratic organizations, and we say that government is undemocratic, I think that would also not be correct terminology. Probably we'll have to have more effective participatory planning approach and have to focus more on success stories. We'll have to find out some good stories, that what are the way outs. Problems are there, we all agree to the problem, and we have been discussing this at various forums also. And today's discussion has also been very, very useful in finding some real ground issues. So I think we can work together and we can find some kind of answers. Sorry, I took a little more time when responding to this question.
No, certainly, sir. It is very important actually when you say, and also coming from a government department, that it is really important to find a middle path, to navigate through a middle path and also focus on success stories. In fact, this can really help in further emulating depending upon the terrain and the geography of our country. So thank you for your thoughts and response. So I would request Professor Amita Singh to respond to the questions. Ma'am, over to you. Ma'am, please unmute.
The first question, as you mentioned, is on the early warning system. Let me go back to the priority that the government has placed, because the best way to make an assessment of governance is to look into the meetings and the minutes and the decisions taken in the ministries on some of these issues. And on the demand of the forest officers, I have worked and been with a number of very, very dedicated forest officers, and it is on their support and instructions that I've been able to look into certain areas, the documentation which is available. And of course, now it is not so well available on the website as it used to be. So I've gone through that and I've seen the battles that the forest officers have fought, and the discussions that the chief conservator forests have made in these ministry meetings, where they just asked for an early warning system. They said that, see, the kind of early warning system that we have right now, and this has been going on, let me put it here because I have mentioned it earlier in the Campa advisory group meetings, from the 3rd, the 4th, the 5th, the 6th and 7th, that comes to 5 advisory group meetings, where the forest officers were simply asking to materialize an old plan where they had demanded not a big thing, but a high resolution satellite imagery like the Cartosat 1 or the Iconos, where, very little fire could be detected at a very early stage. And even that took 7 meetings, 5 meetings to take a decision. And at the end of the 5th meeting, which was the 7th Campa meeting, the minutes say that this is too big a demand. So they cut it to, almost 1/3. And, when a plan is not fully financed and it is financed by 1/3, what is it that you can do? You cannot really materialize it or implement it. I wonder whether that has still been bought, because I could not have access to the latest decisions, but this high resolution satellite imagery is life-saving for the forest officers and the forest workers over there. And whether this is still there or not defines, the kind of early warning system.
Second, just to adding, ma'am, just because you continuation. So now the FSI was, in my this thing also I told that now luckily FSI has made that probably early warning system it is in place. Whether I'm not very sure about the source, if it is a purely Campa funding was there or it is a part of that. But as on today, at least they are with that, facility, and it is being made available to the State Forest Department. Yeah.
No, early warning system was available prior to that also.
No, ma'am. No, this what I am saying for the forest fire and all these things specifically. It is designed just recently, last year also. It was not there. They have not, I mean, operationalized. Now it is operationalized. What I want to say. They are that. I mean, Cartosat images and all these things. It was there, and on that base we have used as picture and fire alert. But now, based on that, at least 1 week early, at least 1 week before, they are now giving that warning system. I'm telling that. I mean, latest update.
Yeah, this high resolution satellite imagery is, I think, still not available, which detects very little fire at a very early stage. That little fire, that high resolution, detection is, I think, yet to come in. I'm not sure, but,
No,
the data is,
it is done, madam.
It is,
As
I think,
Mohan
done.
is informing.
Yeah.
It is already done.
It is available now.
Yeah, it is done, madam.
all right. So it is being used now. It must be in use for the last 1 year. Yeah, so in last 1 year, it needs adequate scientific personnel to actually operate it. If it took, see what I'm indicating at, I'm a governance person because I know that how governance influences, performance at the ground level. If it took 5 meetings to decide on buying it, at the end of the 5th meeting, the budget is cut by 1/3. Then what is a bureaucrat going to do? Because what is it that you have gotten? Is it the same? Now that information is not available, whether what they demanded has been brought in or what has been brought in that suited the kind of money that they got in. So there are compromises, and the fact that I want to produce here is that early warning systems to the demand of the local personnel is yet to be brought in. Also, that there has been a demand of a large number of forest officers, because I have been working closely with the forest officers under training in Dehradun. And, the fact is that the kind of artificial intelligence, applications that are available internationally are not available here. They are not even being thought of. And the people who are, very well exposed to this, they are saying that in the forest schools and training schools, that is not really resonating with the ministry, because for, fire is not a disaster. If the ministry could have worked with NDMA, then that kind of an urgency of a disaster could have, really, accelerated the whole process, catalyzed the process. So that's about the early warning system. Now, about the artificial fires, that's an outdated thing now, because gone are the era when the forest people or forest communities could actually put fire, the jhum cultivation and all that. Now it is, we've crossed the limits of climate change. We've crossed the limits of global warming. Now the situation is the forest is has almost lost its canopy. 3%, we need 30% forest in this country with canopy, and we have only 3% forest with canopy. All that exists is not even a forest. It's so scattered. It's so, dispersed. It's full of pine. Then what is it that we have? So that kind of artificial fire, that argument is absolutely lost, because sequestration is blocked for years to come. So we cannot have any kind of fire in the forest right now. So that's about it. Right.
Yes, thank you, ma'am. Yes, Anil sir, please, you wanted to respond.
Simi, I have another meeting scheduled from 1. Actually, I'm expected to switch to another meeting. Would all the panelists allow me to switch to that?
Of course, that's yes, that's okay, sir.
Can I just respond to what Dr. Anil said, or maybe, sir, we will chat separately.
Yes, Tikender ji, we'll discuss.
Yes. Thank you, sir.
And thank you all the panelists.
Okay, thank you, Gupta ji. Thank you. Nice meeting.
Thank you.
Actually, Tikender ji raised one of the most crucial basic points on forest management. That's about, that's what UNDP did a lot of work, joint forest management with local communities.
Yes, ma'am. And when you're talking about carbon sequestration, it has so much of implications on the, future food and nutrition security also.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So it is very important that you raised this point. Thank you so much, ma'am. Tikender ji, can we have your response? And also,
Yeah,
if you could,
why not?
yes, sir, you could
But
also
no,
reflect
that's
upon,
fine.
yes, sir.
But let Mohanji respond first. Or has he already responded? How do you want to do it?
Okay. Mohan sir, can you respond?
Yeah, so I'm just supposed to, I mean, respond that also at my suggestion also in
no,
that.
suggestions in the
Late.
next room.
So actually there are actually simple thing actually I mean, Mr. Vivek Negi wanted to know that is a, I mean, action-based definition of encroachment or degradation. No, it is my definition of encroachment, literal encroachment. I mean, when somebody XYZ is encroaching forest land illegally without any valid permission or reason, because there is a, see, Mr. I forgot the surname actually. Tikender Singh said very good point that yes, forest is people's forest, and obviously, I mean, forest officials are the only custodian. But what happens once you are custodian, you are interested, job, some duty, and all these things. Then you forget about everything, social, everything. If he is your brother, also for you, he is also offender. Suppose he encroaches. So that because of the, I mean, job chart is like that, and that is the reason that forester across India, I'm saying, they are all crickery of everybody. Nobody likes him. Take into, I mean, politician, any villagers, nobody likes, because job is like that. I mean, role and responsibility are like that. Anyway, that is part that. So encroachment in that little, it is encroachment, nothing else. Yes, second part, what I think that can implementation of CFR Act throw light on possible solution of encroachment. Yes, encroachment, as many of the people we are saying that yeah, it should be a participatory mode. If you want to make participatory mode, it means it any participation model, because madam also saying that they joint forest management. We also have a 2-3 round in Andhra Pradesh. Earlier it was joint forest management, then community forest management, and it was World Bank added. As long as the money was there, it went on very well. We got very good ranking from the World Bank, and there's a whole UNDP, everything, blah blah. Yeah, we have done a lot of, I mean, miracles and all these things. Once the money was withdrawn, again came to zero, back to square zero, nothing. So that is the problem, and we should see that why the community should participate. Why? Unless you provide some incentive, unless it is a mechanism, if it is win-win situation, only then it will work. You cannot say that people, you participate, I will command. No, this is, you cannot expect. So unless you take care of their interest also, and then propose some intervention which are really working good to both of the side, then only this model will work. So yes, this also can be done. Encroachment problem also can be done. But but the people, they will not leave the land. It is a legal status, is forest. So how to come out of that? Either you provide some land to other side. So is it possible when we don't have the land itself? So anyway, it can be done. Answer is that it can be done, provided we take care of both the aspect. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Simi, can I? Simi, should I?
Simi, you are on.
Yes, I don't know. It was not just getting unmuted. Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah. So I think the question that you asked, probably I don't have an answer to that. I mean, what I want to say is, yes, that's true. Forest fires completely ruin the livelihoods of people. And we're so much dependent on probably, I mean, I don't know, maybe I'm not able to carry that. I mean, forests are an inalienable part of the mountain communities. And that's why, and from here I'll pick up, I mean, what does a community mean to me? And that's what I wanted to convey to Prof. Anil. So, by the way, I just need to correct some of the statistics. I mean, all the hullabaloo that we're talking about, who is the community? I think we must go back to the Forest Rights Act 2006. Let us implement that. And then tell us who are the encroachers. We have not implemented even a bit of that, not even a bit. I'm telling you, Himachal, not a single case has been decided, except from Tripura, nowhere in the country where we find the Forest Rights Act has been. So how can we say someone is an encroacher? That's number one. In Himachal, it's just 0.2%. Let us understand. If there are encroachers, just throw them out. But what is the percentage? I mean, come on, just 0.2% of the forest land is in, I mean, what we consider, I mean, that's the government status, just 0.2%. And we think that is what, so we are again, I mean, and that leads me to the whole process of alienation. For the simple reason, people are realizing, I mean, to me, who are not the communities in the forest. To me, I mean, the Satluj Jal Vidyut Nigam Limited that denuded thousands and thousands of trees and provided money in Campa. Not a single money was invested back in my mountains. You know, earlier it was called the Natpa Jhakadi project. The Natpa village is gone. There's no Natpa village because of the construction that we did. We had to shift the Natpa village because there were cracks in that village. I mean, we couldn't save that village. So the entire stretch of 30 kilometers, the underground tunnel that we dug, we have denuded the forests. Nobody speaks about that. We have, I mean, you know, there's in the Pahadi, in mountain terminology, there's a dialect in the mountain dialect, it's called ghat. Ghat means where you have water, where you have a water mill. Those ghats have gone dry. So, you know, what is it that so that's why I say it's encroachment of the modern order. I mean, we have to be very careful about that. Similarly, now a new Renuka Dam is coming. Why? Because we have to provide water to you in Delhi. Why can't you just ensure your own water reserves in Delhi with all the rainfall that you have? But you have, since you require water in Delhi, therefore thousands and thousands of trees will go down, will be submerged, forests will be lost in Renuka Dam, and then from there, from Renuka Dam, the water will be supplied. This is encroachment, sir. This is what I wanted to tell Mr. Gupta. This is encroachment. So these are not communities, you know. The Satluj Jal Vidyut is not a community. The JPs are not communities in Himachal Pradesh who have denuded forests. So I think there has to be a balanced approach, no doubt about that, because we want electricity. But then what would be a formula, or what would be a process in which there is a participatory form of governance? This is not participatory. This is hierarchical. This is completely bosses. I mean, you know, the supreme commander will tell you. So this is ruler-ruled concept. I mean, we don't buy it. The mountain communities don't buy it. That's not how we have lived here for you know, centuries and centuries together. All the races that have come here, right, from the Nags, from the Khashas and all, we've all protected these forests. So I think it's really a transformative phase, and the way this is happening, and as you, I mean, the forests and this Renuka Dam, and there are thousands of families whose livelihoods are dependent on these forests. It will go now because the water is to be provided to Delhi. I also shipped to Delhi, so that water has to come to me also. So the point is, you know, so Simi, you understand the point. So, you know, so that ecosystem has to be considered. What is the balanced approach that we're going to have? So throw those big landlords out, but you're not, that are not, so the biggest landlord happens to be these hydro projects. I mean, apart from the land that were provided to them, they have encroached further. So that's my point. And I think that answers the point that was raised by Professor Gupta. Yeah.
Yes, thank you, sir. And also additionally, I think it gives rise to a lot of human wildlife conflict. When the forests are being denuded, they would, you know, they would come to the habitation where people are living, and then again there it raises important further challenges. So
see,
you know, one thing leading to
Simi, I just
yes, ma'am.
need to share an anecdote with you.
Yes.
You know, now the anecdote which just struck me. The two anecdotes that I'll share. In fact, the first one is I have seen, I think maybe a dozen environment impact assessment reports. It's bullshit. You know, they don't even consider the flora and fauna. I mean, the way these reports are handled and managed, I mean, you can imagine. I mean, what are we talking about? The second thing is about, you know, the forests. Now, I'll tell you a very interesting thing, which I wish Professor Gupta should have listened to that. I come from a very affluent family, unfortunately. So, you know, the entire forest in my region, because my forefathers were very affluent in the region. So the entire forest is in our name. You know, we own the forests. In the revenue record, the forest belongs to me, to my family. But we have a community, the Dalit community just adjacent to my village, who have also used, you know, forests adjoining to them, their forest communities. They are considered to be encroachers. And I asked my forefathers, so tell me, how many years have they been living? They said, as long as we have been living. So it could be hundreds and hundreds of years. You know, so this is another very micro level aspect when we do. I mean, So they are encroachers, and soon you'll find a forest action, because Mohanji and foresters like him have to act according to the law. And the law, because my forefathers were smart enough, and they had all the resources, they could get all that forest named under their name.
Yes.
And I am a natural heir to them, and I an inheritor. So I have inherited those forests, but the poor communities have it. That is one of the stories that exists in yeah.
Got it. Yes. Thank you, sir. Yes, Amita ma'am, you were.
Yeah, I'm just, strengthening the argument that has been put by Tikinder. That's an important argument. But see, the moment you use the word community, there is a lot of heartburning with the government, its agencies, and its people. Because communities from the British period onwards have been looked down as rebellious in nature. They have been looked down as the troublemakers who would have their way, come what may. So, there have been an effort with the previous governments also. And of course, in the present government, all efforts have been lost about involving the community. So this is out in the open, because I've been going through the minutes of the Ministry of Environment and Forest. And I've found that they have only been rejecting proposals coming from the local community NGOs who have been working over there. And when you say communities, it's actually about habitat rights. The habitat rights could be procured by any NGO who may not even belong to that area. It's not about just the local community. It's about a habitat right. A bird lives in a particular area. A man, woman, family live in a particular area. There is a tiger. There are so many endemic species who have been staying there for ages as an ecosystem. That ecosystem needs to be protected wherever it is and whoever is or not living over there. It's the fundamental right of habitat protection, which should be preserved, and they should be part of a firefighting process. And how this is, it is a structure that has to be thought of. And the structure has been mentioned by Tikinder. I'll just carry that forward, that these should have a participatory right in panchayat. The panchayat communities are becoming inactive because they are objectiveless, because they are so dominated by government, the funding, the register keeping, the program maintenance, the dispersal, the Narega, and all these things. But there is a habitat protection that combines all of these programs into one single basket. Which structure is not taking place? Unless that structure takes place and the forest officers are sitting in the panchayats to really deliberate with local people that what is the best solution that we bring to you and you will take care of it, that will work. And that is not taking shape because there is so much insecurity with the government. There are still 3,616 projects waiting to enter the forest, and they are going to consume 69,414 hectares of forest land. So beware what is going to befall us in times to come.
Absolutely.
Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean,
yes,
just
sir.
2 points, just 2 points of Mr. Tikender.
So you could, yes. Also, sir, you could respond to the, go ahead with the way forward and your suggestions.
Yeah, okay. Just for Tikender, Saab, just comment that I think he has that, I think maybe that encroacher are tribals. I think that is not there. All encroachers are not tribal, maybe in Himachal and all these things, but in other parts, we have almost, you can say 50-50, or even the ratio maybe that thing, the non-tribal also encroacher. That is just for information. The second part is that, as you are saying, see, the question comes, all these things, developmental project and all these things, it comes to the government priority. Development, when the development, the priority, obviously, see, one side you have development, one side environment. And problem is that at a time, you cannot have balance. So think that if you give priority to this, so it is going to come down.
No.
That's all. No, ma'am. It is going to come.
No.
If you give the priority means, because it requires, suppose, for example, I will say for simple example, as you are saying, as he also said that EIA, that reports are bogus, exactly agree.
No, that the government, that the High Court has recently said.
Ma'am, let me just
2 days ago, the High Court had said that I can produce 2,000 EIA reports before you, and I know how you get the acceptance and acquiescence to
No,
your.
I'm not coming on that, ma'am. I'm just giving one example, ma'am. Okay, because this is not the main subject, but I just wanted to say is not that I am very development pro or because I am a core environmentalist, because a forester, but I am saying, for example, one EIA report, let us say, as he is correct, because if they really make EIA report effective, there are a lot of implications. You require huge money. You require thousands crore money. So that what happened? It is compromised. So when it is compromised, obviously your environment will be compromised. So there is a known fact. It is across the world. You say, ma'am, you may disagree. I fully agree. It is you are free to this.
Holy Ganga will have its way.
That's why. Anyway, okay, that is a part of that. So what is happening?
Funny.
It's really funny, but we are also part of that. We know, ma'am, how we are doing. I cannot explain you. I cannot.
We understand.
You understand being, no?
Yeah.
So that way, but since we have to work within that framework and we don't have any choice, but how we can do limited resources, what best we can do. So what I am saying that thing, as first and foremost will be that unless we have priority in proactive planning or intervention, it cannot be done. See, why I'm saying priority should be their government level. As you know, last 50 years, the environment forest is getting less than 1%. Why it has not increased? So that is a simple thing. Just more not. Adequate fund availability is very much required. Unless you make fund available, you cannot do. Tampa will run maybe another 4 or 5 years. After that, what happened? See, the government of India allocation for fire arrangement is only 50 crore per annum. For last 4 years, around 50 crore. That's all. And
pathetic.
Yes. It is, and that also so many things we have, the state government have to do so many paperwork and all these things, and money comes when, you know, again think money will come in the month of suppose March. What you will do? You have to start all advanced work in the December. So how you can say that work will start for the fire prevention? Prevention work has to start December. You will get money in the March. And March may, you know, then a lot of a scope for then you say financial year, otherwise money will lapse. Anyway, that is second story. A reworking of priority also have to be the priority, whether fire protection is our priority or not, we have to see that thing. First, as you are, many of you agree that communities are very, very important. As you are saying, joint forest management, last almost 15, 20 years or 10 years ago, it was some priority, there was some this thing, but now focus has gone. So how you can do, we have to decide that thing. And third thing, incentive is very important. I say, unless you have the provision for incentive, why the people will work for you? Why you want the villager to work for you? As you are saying that at that time, patrol, you are saying the patrolling watcher used to be there, so used it for 4 or 5 months. But what happens if the money comes at the end of March? Who will pay from December then? It's practical problem. We talk, government will say so many things. Yeah, we have given that. But in reality, the money coming in the hand is very difficult. Again, there are a lot of problems that Treasury will objection by the time bills come, it will be March and all these things. These are the field things. And again, coming to that, now man and machine, why I am saying the of late actually government, I mean the technological advancement, there are two things. First thing that we have also improved a lot of lot of equipments are there. We have very good fire blower, we have good rakers, anything. And again, as you are saying, in the villages or community, we have selected some people, they have given some basic training. Suppose one village, you give one blower to him, what is there? If 2 liter petrol, you give blower, he can immediately go and start. It is not a very simple thing. It is very simple machine. Just put a blower, you just switch on it. Again, it start pumping huge, wind actually with speed. So what happened? It blow this thing. So it can cut that forest and fire incident. And it is very effective as we have seen in our cases. So why can't we, government should make a provision that, okay, wherever all your adjacent villages, fringe villages, so give all villager one kind of blower you give, some kit we can give, we can set their fire, protection equipment to the selected people. Third thing is that administrative intervention was very much required is the real question. Why the filling of post is very important. Lot of people, lot of posts will be vacant. One guard is looking after three beats and it is humanly impossible for him. And again, not only that, apart from that, he has to do planting, he has to do protection, he has to do government duty, he has to do bandobast duty, he has to do election, he has to do so many things. So what? And he cannot say no. Just say, once again, the duty order came, he will go to that. But this is important. So that is again this thing. And so we have to give proper allocation. And another important thing, which the Dr. Gupta was saying that's why I say he has taken my word in that interdepartmental coordination is very, very important, especially when we have the issues of Tribal Act, when we have the issue of land encroachment, when we have the issue of the rural development, Manrega funding. So unless there is a mechanism to ensure, and not one that, especially urban area, fire department. So fire department, rural development department, tribal welfare and revenue, unless there is a mechanism, they sit with the, forest department under the chairmanship of collector and all these things. But there should be an effective mechanism. It should be a proper planned, not just on the air that, okay, you do that thing. No, it should be a proper mechanism from that. So that can be helped with that. And last but not least, that there are two things: extensive awareness and demystification. Why I say demystification? Madam also saying that thing. Fire alert are now being improved. Actually, if you see the fire alert position, I'll just take 1 minute because this is very important, relevant actually for that purpose. Actually, I have the data for that. How much actually? See, in Himachal, actually, what I am saying that in Himachal, 49,000 people, they are on roll. 49,000 people are getting fire alerts. And in Telangana, 19,000 people are getting. Maharashtra, 11,500, and other state less than 4,000. See what this fire alert mean? FSI has the system that wherever any fire alert is get, it immediately goes to the concerned person. Why cannot we make the sarpanches? Why cannot we make the other local people, your ward member, your community member, your panchayat member, government official? Why they should be all input then? Who is that area? Suppose a gaon ka hai, that means the concerned village officer should be also given that message. Demystification means instead of that, it should come in a very simple, message kind of thing, that where he can locate the location without going that thing by Google map and all the interaction. It is very easy now. The very all kind of free kind of thing. Only thing is that we have to do tweaking in all these things. Some initiative has to be done. So demystification is very important. Abhi kya ho raha hai? Only the forest guard is getting messages. He will give a light long and all these things. People think, oh, it's a very technical thing. It is not technical. Now everything now you are doing local order. How we are getting Google map and direction and all these things. Why cannot this be started for that? You start with a local community and give that incentive is very, very important. And awareness is very important unless you involve them. Especially your political awareness is very important. Gram mein sarpanches hain, gram mein all the members hain, they have to become part of that. Otherwise, it cannot be done in isolation unless it is an integrated kind of approach is adopted. And this not only approach, it should be supported by some policy intervention. There should be some rules and regulation. Plus, last not least, the money. Unless that is there, we cannot do. We can fix so many things. We have a lot of idea, lot of new intervention are there. Technology is also there. I think if they are put in the effective way, this certainly we can next year or all these things we can do a lot of improvement, and we can really protect our forest from this kind of burning problem from at least from next year onward. Thank you for that. From my side, these are the only suggestions.
Thank you, sir. Very passionate, and definitely a nexus of policy and practice is required. Thank you for your views. Professor Singh, over to you. If you could share your views on the way forward. Professor Amita Singh.
I think I've already discussed that, but the crux of the matter is that I just wanted to share here, in the early 70s, I have seen fire being fought on the Palampur hills in Himachal. And, there's such a world of difference. And that used to be a massive fire. The army was posted all around it. And before the army could come in, the local villagers used to just put it off. They had no water. They had no means to draw water out of the water streams. There were lots of water streams at that time. They just, immediately when they saw the fire, they jumped into the fire with local twigs and green branches, and they smashed the fire and doused it off. And they used to do it with so much of commitment that the fire should not come near their villages. And this was a system. It is dead now. I don't know. The Himachalis would be knowing better if it still survives, because that was a massive fire I had seen, and how that was doused. Before any help could come, they put it off.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, sir. Tikinder, sir.
I think ma'am has taken words. Actually, it's alienation of the people. You bring back people to the fore, and they will again be there. And there are actually structural changes that need to be done. Lastly, maybe it sounds very utopian, but I think maybe the people will reclaim some time. Take for example, a tribal district in Himachal called Kinnaur, and we were just mapping. that the total hydropower generation in that district is around 7,000 to 8,000 megawatt, which means in layman terms, it's around 10,000 crore rupees. That's the annual turnover that a small district contributes to the national kitty. Now imagine if they demand just 10% of the royalty, or they say that we won't allow your projects to run, So what does it mean? I think some of that decentralized devolution in funds and finances, which can be then integrated together. Of course, it's very utopian. We know it's very utopian. But in Himachal, this formula was tried some time back, whereby if a hydropower project is to be installed in a local panchayat, so there was some fund that was to be transferred to that panchayat. I think those nuances have to be worked out to ensure that by the time your money reaches, and then this integration, the integration of the elected people and various departments. We have the 73rd and 74th Constitutional Amendment. In fact, I was the National Task Force member with K.C. Sivaramakrishnan to review 74th Constitutional Amendment. So I can tell you about the 74th. 73rd is also pretty bad. But 74th, I think, of the 18 subjects that were supposed to be transferred and that will schedule to the city governments, not even 3 have been transferred. So you can understand how things are, probably even in the 73rd. Actually, the problem is quite inherent, and we can tackle that. But maybe I don't know when. Yeah, thank you.
Amita, ma'am, do you want to say something on that?
No, he said the final word, actually.
Yeah.
The community integration is the key, and that ought to be done. And we have the ways, but not the confidence that they can do it. The priorities are actually, that's what I titled my article, the priority is somewhere else. It's not actually talking about those people who are suffering over there because of fire, and not just fire, lots of things. The poachers are openly putting the forests on fire. And who is worrying? I don't think there is any integrated plan, or there is any emergency meeting going on in NDMA or in the ministry to actually target that problem.
Right. Thank you, ma'am. And thank you, Mohan Chandra ji. Thank you, Tikender sir. So I would now wrap up the program, and I would like to also formally propose the vote of thanks. Certainly, there is a need for the policy, action, implementation, all of this to come in tandem with the environment and forests. And in fact, these are all living entities. And just as we have accorded a human status to the rivers, maybe we could do something on this line on the environment and forest front. So that we are, in tandem of achieving the sustainable development goals, which ma'am had mentioned right in the beginning, that we need to link the forest fires to the SDGs and its attainment. So very important and very enriching discussion today. And I would like to thank you all for joining us on behalf of the IMPRI Center for Environment, Climate Change and Sustainable Development, National Institute of Disaster Management, Ministry of Home Affairs, Government of India, and our media partner, India Water Portal. I take this opportunity to thank the patron of the program, Major General Manoj Kumar Bindal ji, who is the Executive Director of NIDM. We all wish you a speedy recovery, sir. And Professor Anil Kumar Gupta ji, who is the head of ECDRM NIDM New Delhi, for your guidance, and the entire team at NIDM, Mr. Harshit, Ms. Fatima, for facilitating the event. I take this opportunity to thank our distinguished panelists, Professor Amita Singh, Mr. Mohan Chandra Pargain, and Mr. Tikinder Singh Pawar, for your illuminating discussion on the multifaceted dimensions of forest fires that are directly and indirectly impacting us all. I thank Dr. Arjun Kumar, Director of IMPRI, and Ms. Ritika Gupta and Ms. Anshula Mehta for their brilliant coordination. They are the Assistant Directors of IMPRI. And finally, many thanks to the esteemed participants. I'm sure, like me, you all have been beneficiaries of this discussion. So thank you, and we'll be coming out with a report of the event very soon, and we'll be circulating it to all of you for your perusal. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, sir. I wish you all a very good day, and please stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Have a nice day.
Bye.